Hi and welcome to Yin in 15. I'm Annchen from Yin Yoga with Annchen. Whether you're active or not, flexible or not, today's sequence focusing on tight hips is for most of us, right? So you're probably wondering, why Yin Yoga? How can that help me with my tight hips? Well, practicing Yin Yoga helps to create space, helps to open the hips, and also helps with range of motion, for increasing range of motion. And this is because in Yin Yoga we hold poses between 2 and 5 minutes, and this helps to lengthen and strengthen the connective tissue in the muscles and in the joints. And stretching this tissue helps to reduce tension and to decrease or diminish the stiffness or tension that we feel. And it creates space so the muscles can lengthen, and it also helps the joints to enjoy a greater range of motion. And I'm an Ashtanga practitioner, and I can guarantee you that practicing Yin Yoga has helped with my tight hips. So in this sequence we're going to start with a pose to help to slowly and gently open up the hips, and then we are going to move on to deeper hip openers, which will be stretching the groin area, the muscles of the groin area, and the hamstrings. We're going to hold each pose for 4 minutes with a break of 1 minute. If this is too long, start with 2 minutes and then slowly build it up. For each pose, I will be indicating 2 alternatives, 2 options for each pose. And I'll also be telling you where to find the stretch, or what we call the target area of the pose. So with this sequence, you will need 2 blocks, a bolster, and perhaps also a little blanket. Right, so let's get started. Okay, so the first pose is the wide-legged child's pose. So come sitting on your heels, open your knees, slowly bring your forehead down until it is touching the mat, your arms by your side. That's option 1. And option 2 now has a few alternatives. So option 2, if this is painful for you sitting on your heels, take a block and place the block underneath your pelvis. If you find it uncomfortable under your feet, take a little blanket and put the little blanket underneath the tops of your feet. And lastly, if it's difficult for you to lean back completely, to sit on your heels, I would recommend using a block so there's not too much strain on your head when you come forward. Okay, so let's get into that pose. And remember, we'll be here for 4 minutes. So I encourage you to move forward into the alternative that is optimum for you. So moving forward slowly, and the head coming to rest on the mat. First of all, to notice that this is a pose that gently stretches the back. It's a restorative and healing pose, and we often do it to start or end a sequence. Of course, opening up the knees, we are gently creating the warming up of the hips. Also, by having the knees open, this makes the pose more accessible if you have tight hips, if you are pregnant, or perhaps if you have a bit of a tummy, because this avoids any compression of the abdomen. Because the other alternative of child's pose is to have the knees together with the abdomen compressed on the thighs. So this pose is also great if you are feeling a bit stressed or vulnerable. And while you're here, just check in with your breath. Just noticing the movement of your abdomen. Yin yoga is a mindful practice. And that could be one of the hardest parts of yin. By focusing on the breath, it helps to not only relax our body and deepen the breathing, but also helps to relax the mind. So very slowly curling your way up, and then straighten your legs, and we're going to relax in what we call the rebound pose. And the rebound pose is the pose we have between poses in yin, which allows us to notice the effect of the pose on our body. It can be a warm, it can be a cool, it can be a sensation of energy rushing through the body. So let's move now to the next pose, which is the straddle. So option 1, open your legs and slowly move your torso forward, either your hands straight in front of you with your arms straight, or else you can grab a block and you can rest your elbows on the block, allowing your head to round, your back to round, and your head to simply fall down. So that's option 1. Option 2, I would suggest sitting on a block or on a bolster. And if you have tight hamstrings, place 2 blocks underneath your thighs, and then slowly allow yourself to move forward. You'll notice I'm rounding my back once again. Okay, so whichever option works for you, let's go into that option now, and we'll be there, once again, we'll be there for 4 minutes. If you are a very flexible person, I would recommend not going to the maximum expression of this pose. Because the idea here is not pushing. Yin is not about pushing. Yin is about basically looking for the limit that our body puts up for us when we move into a pose. And this means that we have to work on establishing where the limit is, because sometimes when we practice other types of physical activity, we forget where that limit is. We forget to identify it. And with yin, the idea is to start to become more aware and to listen to our body. So as we relax, we can perhaps start to feel the stretch. As you can see, I have my back rounded again. Having the back rounded is also helping to relax the back. And the area where you should feel the stretch could vary depending on the person. Some people feel it more in the groin area, and others would feel it more in the hamstrings. Of course, as you can imagine, this is a really effective hip opener. Notice also that my legs, or specifically my feet are relaxed. My feet are not flexed. And the reason for this is that yin is a non-muscular activity. We do not engage the muscles, because by engaging the muscles, we are preventing ourselves from reaching that connective tissue to lengthen and strengthen and nourish it. This pose also provides you with a gentle massage to your inner knees. So perhaps with time, you'll notice your body opening up. And so you can perhaps shift a little bit further into the pose. Remember, yin is a functional practice. It is not concerned with alignment, because the focus is on whether you feel a stretch. The focus is not on how it looks. So push away from your mind the aesthetics of the pose and focus instead on becoming more aware of your body. Let's slowly come up. And if you've been leaning on a bolster or blocks, move them to the side, and then coming and stretching out the legs. So once again, just noticing, how does it feel in the hips? How does it feel in the legs, particularly the groin area or the hamstrings. The rebound posture can also be experienced as a moment of excitement, but sometimes also as vulnerability. Because there's really a move of water. This is the water that is being shifted around as we are pressurizing and stressing the connective tissue. Okay, so let's move to the last one. And the last one is called the reclining butterfly. The reclining butterfly, bring the feet, the soles of the feet together. And don't bring them like Baddha Konasana where the feet are very close to the groin. Bring them more in a type of a diamond shape. And then slowly bring yourself lying on the mat. This is option 1. Option 2, if this is intense for your knees, take 2 blocks and place the 2 blocks under your knees. This will prevent too much stress on the groin area. And then take a bolster and place the bolster behind you and slowly bring yourself back onto the bolster. So whichever option you have chosen, just gently move into it. And we're going to be here for 4 minutes. Your arms can be by your sides, or your arms can be above your head. So relax and notice the stretch in your hamstrings or in the groin muscles. You'll notice the stretch more in your hamstrings if the soles of your feet are in a diamond shape. If they are closer to your groin, you will feel them more in the adductor muscles or the groin muscles. This is a great pose if you have tight hips or if you find it difficult to move your torso forward when you are in a seated position. So just relax and breathe. And notice as your breathing becomes deeper, how your body relaxes and your mind becomes calmer. You should also notice that as the chest area is open, this is allowing your diaphragm, the muscle we use to breathe, greater space. It is not compressed because often when we are sitting, we compress the diaphragm, which means we don't breathe as efficiently. This leads to shallow breathing, and in turn to anxiety and stress. When we open up the chest, this leads to more efficient breathing. As the diaphragm is liberated, it has space to move. And this deep breathing in Yin Yoga should help to relax the body and calm the mind. So slowly straighten your legs, move yourself off the bolster, and just lie in the rebound pose, noticing the effect of these 3 poses on your body. Just check in with all the sensations that you're feeling. No judging, just observing and enjoying, discovering these aspects of your body that you perhaps weren't aware of. Now bend your knees and slowly rock yourself up into a seated position. So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this sequence. If you have tight hips, I would recommend repeating the sequence perhaps twice a week. But remember, yin is a slow and mindful practice. So keep that in mind when you are working on these poses. Take care and see you next week for the next sequence. Goodbye.